First of all, I'd like to address people who are interested in becoming better helpers. What type of helpers? Helpers who deal with the problems and unused opportunities of life.
So do these helpers, do they have to be professional helpers, i.e. psychologists or psychiatrists?
No, that's exactly the group that I'm not addressing right now.
So we're definitely not speaking to psychiatrists and psychologists?
Absolutely. I do that in the skill helper, etc. But we're walking away, as it were, a bit from the skill helper.
Does that mean we're breaking the rules?
No, we're not breaking. You know we wouldn't do that.
We wouldn't break the rules. I have a funny feeling we might do once or twice before the course is out.
Well, only if you influence me to do so. Anyway, let me start with a basic concept. And the basic concept I would like to deal with is the power of basics. If you want to be a better helper, you need a set of basic tools to be a better helper, whether it's you're helping yourself or somebody else or society itself. Now, there's a problem with basics.
I've come to discover this over the last few years as well, Jerry.
Basics are taken for granted.
Most often not applied.
When I describe the basic framework, the problem management framework to somebody, the common response is something like this: "Oh yeah, I know that.
I've heard it all before.
I've heard it all before.
Read that one in a book somewhere."
And inside, I don't often say it outside, but inside it says, "I know you understand it, but I bet you don't do it." So this is about not just understanding something. This is about doing something. Helping people means you have to do something. In fact, what you have to help them do is to do something, usually.
We're empowering people to take responsibility for becoming conduits of change in their own lives and also in the lives of other people.
Okay. Now, the basics I'm going to talk about is a basic framework for helping, any type of helping, and two, a set of model methods and skills that make the framework work actually with people.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the framework itself? I see this as a universal framework. That is, it's part of the way human beings think.
Just to get clear here, just so that everyone at home understands what a framework actually is.
Framework, another word for a framework is a model. People, I try to avoid the word model because in the helping profession, some say there are as many as 600 models of helping.
I'm a little bit guilty. I teach around about 50 of those.
Well, yeah, I try to stick to one. Put it this way, the framework I'm talking about, I believe, is at the heart of any other approach to helping. I didn't invent it, you'll find it in Aristotle, but it is at the very heart of helping, and it consists basically of 4 questions that need to be answered if you'd like to help somebody.
Now, before we move on, can I just clarify? Because there's a bit of a funny irony going on here, just in case you aren't aware. Jerry is around about 50 years my senior, and for quite a number of years now, I've been recommending Jerry's teachings and trainings to tens of thousands of people all around the world. And upon meeting Jerry, Jerry tells me that this helping framework wasn't even invented by him. It was a framework that he got from elsewhere. So what we're saying is this is a framework that has historically been passed down throughout the generations and the ages.
Yes, well, yes, because I think it's what they call a social universal. It's embedded in the way human beings think.
Ah.
All right. So it consists, the framework, I use framework rather than model because model is overused. The word model is overused.
I overuse it.
All right. And a framework also can be tinkered with. Models very often are set in stone.
So just to be clear then, a framework isn't a rigid 5-step process that must be adhered to.
A framework, especially the framework I'm about to talk about, is a tool that has to be adapted to the needs of the person you're trying to help.
So it's a tool that we can take and we can adapt on a case-by-case, person-by-person basis.
Totally, you've got it.
So it's universal, which means that we can take these frameworks, apply them in our own lives, and only once we've come to apply and understand how to use this framework in our own life, we can then be better versed to share it with others?
Absolutely, you've got it. So the framework asks 4 questions.
Question 1.
Question 1, what's going on? What are the issues here? That's a question that individuals can ask themselves. That's what individuals can ask as they're looking at somebody else whose life is problematic in some way. It's a framework that can be used by managers in managing a company. There's a downturn in the market and everything, so the issue is always what's going on here.
And I'm guessing that because the world changes at such a rapid rate, there's changes going on all over the place all of the time. And a lot of people have a problem with change.
Well, I would say that's more than evident.
Yes.
And what we're trying to do here, I think, is make that a little less burdensome for people.
That's what we're hoping to be able to do.
Yeah. If they understood and exercised the skills needed to change, they would feel much more comfortable.
Now, I don't know about you, Jerry, where you have been teaching in universities and higher educational establishments for how many years?
More than I care to number, but
around about 50, something like that?
Well, whatever, as they say.
You've been teaching for longer than I've been alive. Did I just say that? My goodness. What I'm saying here is I do a reasonable job, hopefully, some people might agree, of teaching online. Jerry's done an excellent job for over 50 years of teaching in a classroom, helpers from all contexts and all backgrounds in how many countries around the world?
Well, I don't know.
More than you care to remember.
Who cares is what I would say.
Okay. So we don't see these
However,
things.
there's another setting in which I've used the framework and the set of skills that I'm going to talk about. I've also been a business consultant for the last 40 years.
And you've worked with some companies such as?
Well, the World Bank is one, British Telecom, their phone company.
BT here in the UK.
BP, et
British
cetera,
Petroleum. So
okay,
basically,
but that's not the big issue. The fact that is, I'm talking about a tool that can be used individual to individual and a tool that can be used as coach to workers, a framework that can be used by a consultant who's trying to help a company deal with its issues, its problems, and its unused opportunities. So it's that makes it a universal framework. So I've used it both with individuals and with a whole range of organizations. All right, so question number 1, we got there, didn't we?
I think so. Did we get that? Let's just recap that one question, or can I recap that question?
Please do.
What is the problem? Because unless we're able to identify a problem or a challenge or a hurdle or some sort of crisis that either we, ourselves, or other people whom we are investing our time into are going through, we can't help them. And another little distinction we want to make here is that we can only help those people in life who are actually ready and who want to be helped.
All right. And to answer that question, I, as a helper, the word that's often used is interview the other. I'd rather say have a reasonable conversation with the other person. And to try, what I'm not doing is gathering data.
It's not about sourcing information. It's not about quizzing or interrogating those people that we spend our time with. I guess it's becoming...
who's the person that needs to understand what's going on? It's not me.
Well, if it was me and you having a relationship, I need to understand you as much as you need to understand me.
Absolutely.
So as helpers, I guess this can help us to help shape our our own priorities by establishing first and foremost that our goal as helpers should always be first and foremost to understand those people whom we're helping. Now that might seem like a really simplistic thing to say, and you might be nodding your head as Jerry says.
Yes, it's a basic. And remember the rule, basics are often ignored.
People say, yeah, I know that, but there's one thing knowing it, then there's something else applying it.
Or they say, oh, I know what's wrong with them.
Yes, we come to all sorts of conclusions, or we end up diagnosing people, don't we?
Yes.
We've seen this.
We adopt the medical model, or the helping professions tend to adopt the medical model, meaning there's some kind of disorder. There's a book that's out that has something like 600 disorders in it that psychologists might need to understand, at least a range of them, in order to help people. What I think is that what they really need is the skills to understand this person in this situation.
Yes. Just to build upon what Jerry's saying here, just to give you a little bit of context, this book that Jerry's referencing is a book called the DSM, otherwise referred to as the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Health Conditions. Now, this was initially created, I think it was back in the 1960s, is that right, Jerry? By a group of psychiatrists from the American Association for Psychiatry. Now, it was a number of individuals were assigned with the role of creating this manual for the purpose of giving titles to the various mental and emotional issues or problems that people experience in life. Now, what this problem or what this book has gone on to create is a whole world of problems within itself, where people then end up being diagnosed by their problems. They then take ownership of their diagnosis and act accordingly, which becomes another main issue and a source of entrapment in people's lives. So this is not the path that we are encouraging or want you to go down.
No, we're probably on a totally different path.
In the complete opposite direction. Yeah. We are not here to deal with diagnosis.
Yes, we're dealing with people who have problems in living, and who is a person that does not have some problems in living? Who is a person who has some unused opportunities that would make his or her life better?
So what's the next question, Jerry?
Question number 2 is, if you don't like the situation you're in, what kind of situation would you like it to be? That is, the question is about the future. If the question is about possibilities, for instance, married couple.
Yeah.
I've done a bit of marriage, not a lot, but a bit of marriage couple counseling during my internship as a psychologist. And they were good in their own way at question number 1. Question 1 of it was, what's going wrong? He was very good at telling her what was going wrong with her. Mm-hmm. She was very good at telling him what was wrong with him. All right? And you know what that got them? Nothing. Nowhere. All right.
We see eye to eye on this, Jerry. Can I just remind you of a story that I've been telling for years that I think you wrote in version 5 of The Skilled Helper? Now, I think the last time I mentioned this to you, you said, did I really write that? Yes, you did. Please allow me to recap your memory. So Jerry tells a story in version 5 of The Skilled Helper about, it was a meeting that President Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan had as Reagan was exiting the White House back in the 80s?
The Pleistocene age.
Yeah, the Pleistocene age. Now, Clinton was obviously taking over. They'd signed whatever paperwork they needed to sign, and one of the first requests of Clinton to his new body of Secret Service agents or whatever was that he wanted to go for a walk around one of the most destitute parts of the city. Now, he was obviously advised against this quite strongly, but he adamantly said, I am the President of the United States of America. You will do as I request. So, cut the story short, Clinton then went to one of the most destitute parts of DC, where he went for a walk through one of the local estates. It didn't take long before he was recognized by a few ladies. One of the ladies approached him rather quickly and went on to express her concerns, her problems, her issues in quite an irate way. Clinton didn't respond until the lady had finished giving voice to all of her problems and issues. Once he was clear, and once he was sure that the lady had given voice to what was in her, he responded by saying, "Dear woman, you've told me what you don't want. Now I'm wondering, could you help me understand what it is that you do want?" And apparently the woman was stuck for words until she gave it a little bit of consideration, responded by saying, "We want more work opportunities for our husbands. We want the drug dealers off our streets. We want to be able to afford the houses in which we live. We want the basic necessities of life."
So that was the framework being applied to society itself.
In a very practical way.
Yes.
Listening to people first and foremost, because sometimes as human beings, I'm speaking to you here as a human, not necessarily as a helper or a professional, but we sometimes have this tendency of responding more to our perception of reality than what we do reality within itself, which means we can sometimes think we know what's going on in our own lives or other people's, whilst being completely oblivious to what's actually going on. And this is a massive problem within itself.
So back to marriage counseling. When I asked them what kind of a marriage they wanted, the response was a sort of deafening silence. They just did not think that way. They were totally into the problems of the other person, never thought about what they really wanted. Unlike these women in D.C., they never thought what they really wanted in their marriage. So what I had to do then was to help them identify some of the issues. For instance, I would say, do any of you know a couple that has a fairly decent marriage? And they said reluctantly, well, yes, John and Jane. I said, describe their marriage a bit to me. Well, they would do that. Again, a bit reluctantly. I said, is that what you want? Well, we don't want just that, but we want a version of that. But notice where they are now. They're taking their problems and they're turning it into possibilities for a better future.